So my research projects really fall under two areas. One area we look at how live animal production has impacted processed meat characteristics. Those projects have kind of focused on how distillers grain and feeding that affects the fatty acid composition and ultimately the shelf life of cooked and processed meat products. The other aspect that we really have looked at is looking at nitrite and salt, and as well as processing technologies and how those impact the quality and shelf life and healthfulness of processed meat products. You have to make what the consumer wants, but we also have to make sure that the product is safe and high quality and has the palatability that you would expect the consumers would desire. Not a lot of the desires are based on fact. There's a lot of preferences and trends that are out there.
We're trying to figure out a way to reduce sodium in meat products to make it a little healthier for consumers, but also trying to maintain that quality and the product that they expect.
So instead of adding powdered sodium nitrite that's produced chemically, we'll add celery juice powder, which is high in nitrate. There's bacteria that convert it to nitrite, and then it's added as nitrite, but it comes from a natural source.
Here I learned really the functionality of every ingredient that goes into a processed meat, as well as why it's there, why we put it there, what it contributes to the flavor, is there any contribution to the shelf life of the product, and then how does it help make the most of that raw material that we possibly can.
Our job as meat scientists and as meat processors is to most efficiently use and make high quality products that the people want, and also reduce the waste that occurs. We want to utilize everything that's produced and also manufacture it in a way that it has the longest life to help optimize what the consumer will be able to use as well. How many of you have heard all the horror stories of what goes on to a hot dog? And one of the first things that they say is that it's the waste. It's the trim and it's the leftovers that go into it. And in reality, that is the truth. We're taking the bits of what's been trimmed off the outside to make the steaks and roasts that are in the retail market. We take the pieces of muscle and fat that it's really not financially advantageous to separate, and we also take muscles that are inherently tough that need something done to them. And these are the products that are used either for ground beef or for further processing. There's really a lot of different ingredients that we add, and we don't just add them for a willy-nilly reason. They have functional aspects of why we put them in the product. I think that hot dogs get a bad rap. I think they can be part of a healthy diet. Should you eat a hot dog or multiple hot dogs every day? Probably not. But it's okay to eat a hot dog as part of a meal. I think grilled hot dog over a campfire or something like that is perfect. Like, they have their place and their reason and can be included in part of a balanced diet. There's a lot more disconnect from the farm than what there used to be in previous generations, and it's getting more and more so as more population moves away from the farm. I think there's a lot of misconceptions and misunderstanding of what actually happens, and like I said before, part of it is the mistrust of the science of what's going on there, and we as meat processors and in academia, we need to make sure that the industry as a whole is being transparent.
It's hard to talk to consumers because there's lots of negative perceptions. You know, I mean, you Google processed meats and you get things such as hot dogs contain everything that's horrible about the carcass, and you know, they don't necessarily shine a bright light on the meat industry, and so it's really hard to then educate consumers when they believe that they are completely accurately educated from what they've gotten from Google or maybe not so accurate internet information, and change their opinion on processed meats and get them to truly understand, you know, why this isn't scary, why this is important to the industry, and why they should be consuming these products.
I think including food in a curriculum is important, whether it's elementary or high school. In my opinion, I think there should be a food class required for all college students as well, to give a basic background of what food is and basic nutrition that comes from it.
Go to school for something that you are truly interested in, and make sure that you truly reach out to people. Talk to your teachers, talk to, you know, even if your parents have friends that have jobs similar to what you want to do, I mean, ask them questions, make those connections.
And follow what your passions are. Don't be afraid to take hard classes. You'll learn things from taking the harder classes. The challenge that you give yourself will make you a better person, and in the end your education will be better than if you take an easy way out. There's really a lot of opportunities, and it's really a fortunate time. There's a lot of demand for jobs in the meat and food industry, and so find something that you enjoy, that you can make a career out of.